Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Screams After Midnight. I'm Peter, and joining me, as always, is Tim.
Yeah, I notice you're different when you podcast with me. You're more intense.
This is a horror movie podcast, and I am horrified. I'm miserable, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm feeling a lot of emotions because I had to watch the Twilight Saga Eclipse. And so did Tim, for the record.
I mean, a lot of people were happy this week because Saga came back, but...
Oh, yes.
But we had to return to a different saga.
Yeah, this has been a while in the making. This was so the reason why we've done these Twilight movies is because I've had like stream goals here. Shut up. Because I've had stream goals for them. That's when we did the first one, we did the second one. The stream goal for this like happened in like October, right? So it's been sitting waiting for us to do it, and we thought it would be perfect to finally get to it for Valentine's Day.
Oh, sweet.
So welcome. If you're a patron, you're getting that like a day early, then happy 13th. but for the public, happy Valentine's Day. So here we are. So we won't bother with a spoiler-free section. No one cares. Let's be honest here. These are about misery. These are about like picking through one of the most derided franchises of the century. I do highly recommend, just so you're up to date in the continuity of everything, our review of Twilight and then Twilight New Moon. Is that what it's called? New Moon?
Sounds about right.
Sounds right.
I mean, yeah, these are hard to keep track of. I mean, God forbid any movie title should have a number in it.
Oh. Well, don't worry. The next one's Breaking Dawn Part 1.
That's true. That's true.
So, yeah.
Which wasn't that a Buffy episode?
Breaking Dawn? No. I mean, obviously that show dealt with vampires and werewolves, so it wouldn't be that weird if some of the terminology that gets used might.
And there's a character named Dawn.
There was, but I feel like Breaking Dawn in relation to a person named Dawn is more of like an S&M film or something.
Sure. That would have been like if Bane came to Sunnyvale.
Yes, yes.
Or Sunnydale, sorry.
You think the Slayer is your ally? You merely adopted the Slayer. I was born to a molded buyer. I don't know where I'm going with that, but so
that's good. I liked it.
I'm glad you did, Tim. If nothing else, at least Tim liked it. Yeah, so obviously, I mean, these aren't really horror movies. It's kind of a joke to be doing them just for a laugh and to make fun of them. But they are vampires and werewolves.
It's not like we secretly like them.
I hate that you just cracked that joke. You're gonna spread filthy rumors, Tim. I want to have it. So I mean, I struggled when we watched the second one to remember a lot of details from the first, and the same is true again. Like the first thing I want to say, Tim, do you remember? Because I really had like a what the hell moment early on in this film, because the villains are like killing people, but there's a vampire they kill. And did you have a moment where you're like, wait, what just happened to that guy's head? It's like it smashed like glass, and I was confused. And then as the film went on, more and more vampires were getting like either limbs or heads taken off, and it was leaving like it was almost like the inside of the boys were crystals.
I mean, I just figured that was part of the whole sparkling in the sun thing.
Yeah, do you remember? Maybe we just didn't see any vampires die in the first two. I don't remember, but
I definitely don't remember it. I feel like this is the first time I was seeing this kind of effect.
Yeah, I was baffled by this. Absolutely baffled. The sad truth is that there is like 2 or 3 things in this movie that made me laugh quite a bit, right? But like New Moon, for as shit as that movie was, right, and it was a really shit movie. It was so insane with its plot lines between the like Bella trying to like do extreme sports and near-death experiences to see the ghost of
I forgot
Edward,
about all that stuff.
and then like the race to Italy to like save Edward. Like,
At
there
the
was so many,
Vatican or something.
yeah. There were so many crazy things in that last movie that it was kind of consistently hilarious and had a lot to talk about. While this had a couple of moments, I felt like this one was easily the dullest of the three that we've done so far.
Yeah, see, I mean, this might be kind of interesting, man, because I would kind of disagree, because I actually thought that there was like a lot of like funny stuff, and for me, I think a lot of the stuff that was making me laugh in this one was like, you know, I think we might have talked about it in the other episodes, but like not having read the books or watched the movies when they came out, but it was so infused in pop culture that you knew the whole, you know, Team Edward, Team Jacob kind of thing, and then watching the first two movies, it was surprising to see like, oh, like, it's not really a team thing. Like, she's just pretty much like day one, like into Edward.
I think I know you were going with this, Tim, because this movie, Jacob, like, not only does it not feel equal between Jacob and Edward, I would argue that Jacob is throwing up and even red flags after this movie.
Oh, absolutely. Oh no, yeah. Like there's multiple times. I watched this with my wife, and multiple times I turned to her and I was like, "Well, that's toxic behavior."
Yeah, he's manipulative. He forces a kiss at one point, but although the kiss forcing scene ends up being hilarious, but we'll get to that and why it's hilarious.
But to be fair, though, Edward's no prize either. Like it's not he's no prince. But I think so. This is when you start getting the rivalry between Edward and Jacob, and I find that part to be particularly amusing. Like whenever it's Bella and Edward alone together, that stuff is like as dull as dirt to me. Like they're such boring characters and they have no chemistry. But they're just like supposedly madly in love with each other, but which basically just means I'm kind of just looking at each other for long periods of time and then like whispering. Like it's so boring. But then when like Jacob is involved, like that's when it gets really funny to me, and that's when it's like really over the top and melodramatic, and that stuff I was having a lot of fun with.
Every sentence that comes out of his mouth just makes him feel more pathetic to me. Like, like I know you love me, Bella. I know it. I can sense it in your moisture.
And keep in mind, he's usually saying this without a shirt.
Oh yes, I mean honestly, Edward popped me. Probably the first time I laughed in this movie is when they have to go see him for some reason, and like Jacob's standing there topless, and Edward just goes, "Does he own a shirt?"
You know what's like so funny is like there are these like, I would almost call them like MCU kind of lines where it's like that kind of like winky jokey joke kind of trailer lines. There's a few drops like that in this movie, but like they're still delivered with the same kind of like melodrama that the rest of the lines are. So it feels very weird. Like oh god, I think there's like there's something like Jacob says, I think when they're in the tent or something that oh, like something like I'm like hotter than you, like because of the body heat or something like that. And it's like that should be, you know, like a very like, I'm not saying it's like a good joke, but that should be the kind of joke that you would see in the trailer and people would be like, oh, ha, 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 ha. But like it's delivered so seriously that I mean, I guess I kind of laugh because it's like so bad, but I don't know, like even the jokes in this movie, like they have to have this intensity.
They should have got Monica Keena back to do Edward versus Jacob, place your bets. That was a Fred of Jason reference for anyone who didn't get it.
Kudos on remembering that actress's name.
Do you know what? I think it's because she was so bad that I complained so much about her that I remembered her name.
Well, I mean, no offense to her, but like she hasn't been in like anything else. So I remembered.
Yeah. Monica Keena, Kelly Rowland, Catherine Isabel. I remember a surprising number of actors in that movie. I mean, Catherine Isabel is obviously worth remembering because she's also Ginger Snaps and other things. But
American Mary, I believe.
Yeah, and believe it or not, Anna Kendrick's still in this franchise. I was shocked that she's still here.
Now, you were talking before about like not remembering stuff from the previous movies, and thank God that you know, my wife actually does like these movies to an extent. I think she liked it when she was younger, and then she kind of watches now. She's like, yeah, they're a little cringier, but yeah. But luckily, like she's still familiar with the stories and stuff. So I had a lot of questions because they're just constantly being like, oh yeah, what about Alice? Or oh no, what about Victoria? I'm like, who are these people? Like I'm
not gonna lie to him. it took me 3 movies to realize that Victoria, the evil redheaded vampire, was Bryce Dallas Howard.
Bryce Dallas Howard. I was gonna check IMDb because I was like, she wasn't in the other movies, right? Like, she must have replaced someone. Like, I could not for the life of me have remembered that she was in the other ones. I was very surprised.
Yeah, but it's wild stuff in a lot of ways. It's not wild in a good way, but there's a lot of wild. Like, it achieves a lot of things that are quite spectacular in a bad way. So I guess we dive into things. So the last movie, I did remember how the last movie ended, which was Edward being "Marry Me." Now, I didn't remember though that she never actually gave him a response. So I was surprised at the start of this when he was still like, "Marry me, Bella, marry me," and she's like, "No, that's too much commitment." Oh, but turn into a vampire, completely altering your biology, and like, you know, committing to being different for all of eternity. Yeah, that's way smaller than getting married.
And you know what's nuts is, like, it feels like there's this whole big rush, like, you know, they're just graduating high school or whatever, and it's like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna do it, get married and whatever? And my thing was like, you know, even if you want to be with him, like, wait, you know, give yourself 10 years or whatever to, you know, live some life and not instantly settle down.
Here's the problem though, she doesn't want to be like a cougar to his 17-year-old,
which I didn't even, I don't remember if they said that in the other movies, because I didn't remember that being a plot point, but my wife was explaining that to me and I was like, oh god, like, it's even worse than you can imagine. Like, oh, like, not only are they trying to rush this thing, but like part of it is because, like, oh yeah, I don't want you to look too much older than me. Like, it's so kind of weird and creepy and gross. And
yeah,
also,
well,
it's like,
the only reason I remember this, Tim, is because in the first movie, she says, you know, what age are you? And he says 17, and then she says, how long have you been 17?
Okay.
That's the only reason why I remember that.
Also, it's like, I don't know. I feel like he could pass for older if he wanted.
I mean, he is actually older. I mean, that's like the start of it. They're all a bit older.
Like, maybe if you actually wore like adult clothes and got an adult haircut, maybe people wouldn't think you're 17. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, but given the way that these vampires act, like Edward and his siblings, they keep going back and back to high school to sort of like in new towns. Because there's a joke early on where one of the brothers and sisters says, you know, I mean, how many times do we get to graduate high school? We should have a party. And it's like a sort of wink wink, because they actually do it over and over again. And I'm like, Bella, you really want to keep coming back to high school? Like over and over and over again?
Why the hell are they like subjecting themselves to this like torture? Like, especially in the modern age when you're like, oh, all right, it sucks that I'm stuck this age forever, but you know what? At least I'll have plenty of free time to catch up on like movies and play video games and stuff. And it's like, no, I'm gonna go to school, like the worst thing ever for just eternity.
I mean, Edward only plays baseball and piano. That's all he does.
Of course, yeah.
That's his only 2 things.
I like literally the only reason you would do that is if like you want to scam on girls, which is like his whole MO, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's his thing. Yes, even though he claims he's such a gentleman in this, like, because some of the early dialogue where like she's been gone because she goes to see Jacob to see if he's all right early on because her dad asked him to. And she comes back, and Edward comes up to the house like, I've been worried about you all night. Ugh. And he's just sort of brooding, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, you're so needy, like, stop it. Okay, so I've said this every time, right? But Bella's dad is the one sympathetic character in the whole movie.
Oh sure, yeah.
Right?
No, without a doubt, yeah.
And he had probably the best intentional joke of the movie, which is a really awkward scene later on where Bella comes in to speak to him. I can't remember what they're talking about at first, but she starts asking about marriage, because obviously she's been thinking about marriage, because she doesn't actually want to get married. She feels like conflicted about it, and she's like, hey dad, why did you get married again after mom? And he's like, well, yeah, you know, I just didn't meet the right girl, I guess, and just it wasn't for me, but you know, it's worked out for your mother. And then he sort of like says, but you know, it's like something you may want to do when you're older, when you're much older, like none of this like 17-year-old boyfriend crap. And the conversation shifts to sex, right? And he tries to be the dad, and he's like, look, just, you know, and it's also not something you should do because you feel forced to, because you might have, you know, had an accident. So, you know, promise me you're being. He's being like a fairly understanding. Because he's not saying don't have sex. He's not saying like I'll kill you if you touch a cock. He's saying like this is awkward for me to talk about. I will be understanding to an extent, but just be safe. He's being perfectly reasonable. He's a nice man. and Bella gets awkward and doesn't want to talk about it, and then eventually just blurts out she's a virgin, and it's awkward for both of them. But after she leaves the scene, Charlie, Bella's dad, takes a bite of the sandwiches or whatever he's been making and goes, starting to like Edward a bit more.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I don't know, it got a pop out.
That's funny. Yeah.
That's not the funniest thing in the movie though.
Well, I should just say they really should have, like, if they really want to, you know, just milk as much drama as they can, like they should have had him throughout the series, like start a romance with like a mummy or something, and then like she just has like a stepmom mummy.
It took me a second to figure out that you meant mummy as in the, you know, the monster mummy,
yeah.
and not like just, you know, some single mother that's
right. Yeah. I mean, that's what it probably would be in this universe. Like, it'd probably be like a hot single mother with like a couple of bandages.
She should have like one bandage just across her shoulder. Just
yeah. Don't look at me, idiots.
I'm hideous. The thing that made me laugh, because there's a lot of like Bella being put into positions where she's with Jacob for safety reasons, even though Edward's like awkward and like upset about it. The scene that made me laugh, it's a problematic scene, because this is the scene where he forcibly kisses Bella and she has to like push him away.
And breaks her hand.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It made me laugh. Like I went from being, oh, this is like crossing like this line, to her punching him in the face. And you know how sometimes like you get an effect on like a Superman or something where someone will punch Superman and it won't work. This actually had a much like sort of like,
even one of the movies he got a bullet in his eye.
Yes, but they usually treat it like someone's hitting steel, right? Because, you know, Man of Steel, so they'll have like a clank, or you know, and they'll play it that way. This actually had like a weird, like fleshy, like as if she was hitting like a flesh bag kind of sound effect. But then like she breaks her hand. But I didn't know she broke her hand though. I just thought she hurt her hand because this was funny. But the funniest moment in the movie is when he takes her home. Edward shows up and he's pissed because he could sense that something happened. You know, he's all mind reading and stuff. And then Charlie comes out to separate the two boys. He's like, no, you two, stop fighting over my... And then he says, what's going on here? And Jacob confesses, and it's the pauses that make it work, because he goes, I kissed Bella. And then she broke her hand on my face. The line, she broke her hand on my face, which may have had a pause in the middle of it as well. Like... It was easily the biggest laugh I had this whole movie. It made me cackle, because it was this sort of thing where, I mean, not only is it a silly line, but if you think about her dad, Charlie, it's like, well, why did she punch you in the face after the kiss? It must have been, you know, unsolicited. It must have been forceful. You know, I think as a father, you would start to wonder, why did she punch him?
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Right? And now her hand is broken. So even though it wasn't directly him hurting her, you know, I feel like as a father, you'd start asking a lot of questions. He never does though.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Charlie's too innocent, and
he's very understanding. Like, he's like, yeah, who knows? Maybe like that's their kink. Like, you know, they get a little punch play.
Yeah, but it's worth mentioning he has no idea that Jacob's a werewolf and therefore has a strong face. He just hears she broke her fist on my face,
which like it's like a weird thing. Like, I don't know, like I guess it kind of makes some sense with, or for some reason I guess it would make more sense like with vampires, with them having really hard skin, but like with werewolves it's like, I don't know, it's not something I associate with werewolves. Like, oh yeah, they have very strong bones.
Yeah, no, me neither. Honestly, I wouldn't have predicted that he wouldn't. I would have thought that he would still feel the pain of a punch from any regular person. Yeah. So it came as a surprise, honestly, but it made for the funniest moment in the movie. So I'm not going to be too mad about it. Yeah, all the Jacob and Edward stuff is just really cringy, melodramatic as it has been. But Jacob sounds so needy. He gets. Like he's constantly saying things like, I know you love me too, Bella, you just can't admit it to yourself. You know, sentences like that, they just make him feel so desperate, and
like that's where it gets like really like pathetic, and like you're saying, like it's he's throwing up lots of red flags, because it's like, it's one thing to be like, hey, I like you, is there any chance like you could feel the same way about me? But like, you know, when he's, you know, like pretty much telling her how she feels, you know, he's like, no, you love me, I know it, like That's when it's like, this is bad.
He's got a line of dialogue that I think tries to explain it as he can literally smell like her biology like changing like when she's around him, so he knows that there's a reaction, so he knows like fundamentally like it's not true that she's feeling nothing for him, so he's
sure
whether or not he's misinterpreting that as extreme or he actually knows very specifically that is like, because by the end of the movie she admits she does love him, she just loves Edward more, which is like, well, screw it, sucks to be you, buddy, like you were right but it wasn't enough. But he's so the worst thing in the movie, like even more than the forced kiss, is so part of the plan, we'll get to what the plot is with all the action and villains and stuff later, but they end up having to hide Bella up in the mountain in the snow, and both Jacob and Edward are there, and Edward's in the tent with Bella, and Bella's shivering in the sleeping bag, she's freezing cold. Jacob comes in all topless as he does. Basically, Edward is forced to watch Jacob get into the sleeping bag and snuggle with Bella because he has body heat to keep her warm, and Edward doesn't because he's a vampire, and he has to watch this. And so this is just kind of hilarious from a like, oh, that's like, you know, prod all the fans who are at the love triangle bollocks, like to make them go through this torture. But the funniest thing about the scene to me is that Edward and Jacob have probably the closest thing to a friendly heart-to-heart that they've ever had.
Oh, absolutely.
Whilst he's snuggling Bella in a sleeping bag, like, hey, you know, if we weren't both like fighting over the same girl, like, we'd probably be friends, you know. And if, you know, if I wasn't a vampire, you weren't a werewolf, you know, we'd be bros, kind of thing. Yeah. So that cracked me up. But on you go.
Well, this was the hardest scene to watch for me because, you know, there's no way my boy Edward is a cuck. Come on.
That's not even the only time in the movie. There's a scene in the movie where she has to ride off with Jacob on his motorbike, and like Jacob just sits there and says, "Hold on tight," and like Bella's like, "Wipe the smile off your face. We're just going." You know, somewhere, and like Edward just watches as she's like, you know, holding him on the bike, and it's like, oh my god, like what are we doing?
Also, another part of the plan is that he has to like run around with Bella to like get his scent on her, to mask her scent.
Yeah, it was basically the evil vampires that are coming will not smell her because the stench of the werewolf will be so strong that it'll hide her smell. So the night after the tent, though. Because Bella's hiding from Jacob at this point in the movie that she has said yes to Edward, that they are engaged. And in the morning, she's talking to Edward, and he makes a reference to them being engaged. Jacob hears it. And for some reason, so even before the problematic part of this, which is everything Jacob does, I don't understand Bella in this entire scene at all. Like, she runs after Jacob. She cares so much, but he's going to have to find out you're engaged at some point. You're not going to be able to hide the fact that you're married. Like, it's going to come up. But like she runs out and like begs him and apologizes. I'm like, under what circumstance, right? I mean, I suppose if you know someone really cares about you that way, maybe you do understand that it's going to hurt them, so you want to try and make them feel better. If you do on some level care about them, okay, sure.
I mean, it was a little hard for me to tell you when I was getting married.
I remember it was a very tough conversation. Yes, I'd like to think I reacted better than Jacob did here, though, because Jacob effectively kind of threatens suicide because he can't be with Bella. That's, you know, he manipulates her in this gross way, which forces her to yell out that she loves him. This is how she admits she loves him. So it's super provoked and forced. And she's already admitted that. She yells out, "Kiss me." Sorry, it wasn't "love you," "I love you." It was maybe she says that as well, but she says, "Kiss me, kiss me," because that's the thing. After the forced kiss, she made him promise that he would only kiss her if she asked for a kiss. Which
is nice.
I mean, well, no, this is bullshit. This is like 50 Shades of Grey, but saying, "I'm not going to touch you until you've signed a contract." Like, you shouldn't, like. You should feel comfortable with a person that's going to kiss you to the point where you like. I'm not saying you don't have to give consent. I'm saying you don't have to specifically go out of your way. You know, typically, you know, you lean in for a kiss, and if the other person doesn't want to kiss, they've got a bit of time to pull away or, you know, gently kind of like, you know, alter the path or whatever the subtle, gentle way might be. Right.
So that's why I always start a countdown when I make my move.
Your wife's a lucky lady, Timmy. I love the idea you start across the other side of the room just going 10 footstep, 9 footstep. And then you whistle, as you get closer, your voice gets softer. It's like 3, 2. And then,
well, see, that's where you're wrong, because I've never made it to that. Usually get stopped around 6 or 7.
just throws a book at you. One baby was enough, Tim. Stay away from me, you awful man.
Yeah, go read some comics. Oh, okay.
Yeah, nah, so like I just like everything about this scene is like problematic. It does not make me like Jacob. It like I don't like Edward. I think Edward's problematic, but Jacob, I guess I'm team Edward in the sense that Jacob is so far gone into you're a manipulative asshole who like he's toxic. He's toxic in every possible way. And all 3 of the main cast or characters, they're all bad characters. They all suck for a variety of reasons. And it's another thing when you watch a movie like this, and you have this feeling that the movie, or in this case as well, the book I assume, wants you to like root for certain things. It wants you to root for Bella to give in and want to marry Edward. It wants you to root for Edward to give in and turn Bella into a vampire because you care about the romance. And every single thing in this movie that presents an argument against that, and everything that's like, you know, like Anna Kendrick making her valedictorian speech and talking about how this is a time when we're young to make mistakes and try things and be wild and whatever, right? And all of it's saying, yeah, don't decide to like change your body and like get married at 17, right? That's a stupid thing to do. Everything's saying that. So whenever it does like a big moment where Bella finally says yes or whatever else, every time I'm like, I actively think this is the wrong choice. The proper ending to this overall story should be Bella making the grown-up choice to realize that she shouldn't do this right now because it's too early, and she's 17 years old. She's not ready to decide to get married. Everything is telling me the opposite of what the movie wants me to think.
Oh, sure.
And that's true throughout. Same with Jacob. So like I don't sympathize. I don't care. Yes, and for some reason and this does not justify the toxicity in any way. Toxicity is toxicity, but we still come back round to that core problem from the very start of this whole story, which is why are these two so obsessed with the charismatic black hole that is Bella.
Yeah, it's like, come on, like Jacob, he hasn't even imprinted on her. Like, who cares?
The imprinting conversation where he tries to explain that once you imprint on someone, you're like, you know, it's like you're just like attached to him. It's more than a crush. Blah blah blah. It made me laugh, but only because I have a vague spoiler of imprinting from Lair.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's the only reason why it was entertaining.
Oof. Yeah, surprisingly, like Jacob gets worse.
It's going to get worse than this movie. Yes, that is true.
Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be like 35 years old and like debating this kind of stuff, but like,
well, tough. You're 35 years old and you're debating this stuff.
But like, I don't even understand. Like, again, like from what I knew about when this stuff was coming out, like it seemed like, you know, I guess I kind of assumed it was a pretty even split between like some people that are like, you know, Team Edward and Team Jacob, but like watching these things, it's like, how can anyone in their right mind be like Team Jacob? Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know if like, maybe like if people think whatever that actor is like dreamy or something, like, okay, but like the actions of the character in no way make him like seem like anyone would ever be on his side or rooting for him to get the girl.
Yeah, I wonder how much of the Twilight fan base are actually ship Edward and Jacob, because I actually thought they had more sexual chemistry than either of them did with Bella.
Oh, I can probably guarantee you that is you know, something that exists on.
Oh yeah, there's definitely fan fiction and shit, no doubt. If they can do it with Sam and Dean from Supernatural, they can do it with with Twilight. Yeah, so all of that relationship stuff is super like rough. It leads to, I thought there was going to be more of these, but we only got 2. It leads to like 2 of the family members like explaining how they became vampires, so we get like these flashbacks to like how they turned, and neither one is very pleasant. They're both pretty rough.
Now, if I don't know if you're ready for maybe a controversial statement, but
oh god,
I kind of like these parts. Like, the like to me these like backstories, first of all, they felt the most interesting to me because like they're not like dealing with like Edward,
Bella and Jacob.
And also I would say like these are like the most horror, you know, parts of like the movies so far. Like, no, to be fair, yeah, like they always stop right when like the horror stuff is about to get good. Like that first lady, yeah, I forget her name, but like, you know, she's getting the revenge on the guys that like, you know, like assaulted her and everything, and then it kind of ends like, you know, she's getting into the room with that main guy.
I get you dodging the bad words here, but let's just call it gang rape because that's what it is.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's very sad, but I mean, cool that she gets revenge, but also it's like, well, maybe it's not the best thing to have in this like kind of teeny bopper romance movie.
I think what stuck out to me about that is that it wasn't like that was part of her becoming a vampire. Like it was just so happened that a vampire found her after she was left for dead from the attack that she ended up being a vampire.
But that like kind of sounds like a cool movie, like a woman, you know, like, you know, gets this like offer from a vampire being like, hey, I can turn you and you can get revenge. So
what you're saying is the vampire version of I Spit in Your Grave.
Right, yeah.
Which, you know, you could have her come out of a grave. You could actually make it literal. You could be like,
yeah, like,
yeah, you spat in my grave. That's what you can call it. Yeah.
And then like the other guys, I didn't think it was as good, but there's still something there with like, you know, something like kind of creepy about seeing these three like women in nightgowns just in the middle of like whatever. Yeah, it definitely felt
they were based on, you know, the Dracula like brides kind of thing. Yeah. No, I agree that they're probably the most vampire-y traditional moments of the movie. I didn't necessarily I didn't really like them that much, but I can see what you're saying. I mean, obviously, as a Buffy and Angel fan, it's hard not to think, because those shows would occasionally do flashback episodes to like, oh, this is them back in like, you know, the 19th century or whatever. It's hard not to think of that, but so we get a couple of those explaining various things.
You're right though that it is weird. Like once they kind of set it up, you're like, oh, so I guess we're gonna do everyone, right?
Well, I thought even if it's not everyone, I thought for sure we were going to end the movie with an Edward one to reveal something about him that was going to like upset her. You know,
that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but then it never happened. I was like, okay, we're just going to end in a field again with you saying we're getting married.
Like John Wilkes Booth or something.
I mean, that'd be an interesting development. To go that way.
Yeah, I had to change my name to Edward.
Yes, Eddie,
Edward, is it?
Eddie, Belly, and Jakey. Actually, did you notice that they were calling him Jake a lot more in this movie? I don't remember him calling him Jacob Jake that much in the last two movies.
No, I didn't recognize that. You super fan.
I felt like he was away for the summer and he came back and no, I'm Jake now. I'm cool.
One thing I did think was funny is like whenever they go over his like house or whatever, and like just like his whole pack is just like all these like shirtless boys running up, like just like eating meat, you know, like, like all right, we get it. You're werewolves, like you're dogs, you're bestial or whatever. Like I don't know.
Yeah, so I was watching I made like a bingo card. That where people on stream watching with me all had their own like version of the card. One of the squares was 5 topless men on the same shot, and that scene ticked that one right off. Which, by the way, just honestly, eating topless is just the least appealing thing I can possibly think of.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're eating like chicken. Like, imagine you get grease on your chest by accident.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah, it's awful.
And like, I never like this kind of interpretation of werewolves, or I guess maybe any kind of monster similar to this, where it's like, oh, like, yeah, as a human, they're starting to act more like, you know, like animals. Like, I don't know. It's just like, it's not that interesting to me.
Yeah, the whole topless side just feels like David Dakota like have a hand in this movie.
Who's that? I don't know.
Yeah, he's a director who did a lot of low budget stuff, but he ended up specializing in a lot of really crappy movies that basically focused on a lot of guys having their clothes mostly off for most of the movie.
All right, I gotta look this guy up.
I'm honestly surprised you never heard of that name. But hey,
I mean, if I did, I maybe I heard it before and just don't remember it.
hey, there's a lot of bonus episodes with his name on it. Don't you worry.
Oh my. Okay.
we got things to check out. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anything much more to say about the relationship, the core love triangle itself. Maybe I'm forgetting something, but
yeah, I don't know. There's a forced kiss, and then the tent scene, and then the yeah, the engagement, which me and my wife were making fun of the ring that he gave her. Like, it's a bad ring.
yeah, it's not an engagement ring, but
it's like way too big, and I don't know, it looks stupid.
He said it was his mother's, and his mother's like what, 500 years old or so.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. Like, granted, I don't know anything about jewelry, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure that sucks.
So, the plot of the movie. We should probably get to that. Which the movie does not spend that much time on.
Oh, I just remembered like when like she's having the graduation party, and like Jacob comes, and like she's like, oh, what she say something like, oh, like why'd you come? It's like, you invited me. It's like, yeah, but that was like after I like broke my hand on your face.
Before
and
you
then before, yeah. And then he gives her like a little wolf bracelet.
Which she actually wears, and then later on Edward adds something to it. He's like, well, I should be represented on the bracelet.
I think he adds like a diamond or something.
I think it's a heart. So it's like a diamond heart, I think. Yeah.
Okay. But it what is sparkles? That's it sparkles like they do.
Yes.
Which it seems like they're very like meticulous about when they want to show them sparkling, because there's plenty of times where like they're walking around and like the sun's out, but I don't know, is it just like, does the sun have to be like out like if it's like a little bit cloudy, like they don't sparkle? Like, I don't know.
I mean, this is a problem I've had with all three of these movies, is that so much of it is shot in this like grey, overcast.
Oh, it looks absolutely horrible.
Yeah, like they're going for this almost monochromatic kind of look to it, and it just looks nasty and cheap. The vampires look so lame. There's like a shot of all the vampire family standing in a line waiting for battle at one point, and I'm like, you look so stupid. But speaking of stupid, the first time we see Jacob in the movie is when they run into him at school, and like this song hits right as you see him, and he turns round dramatically in slow motion, and it is just, again, like, there's so many things in it that are just really lame and pathetic, and it's like you're trying really hard, but you're just ticking off all these cliche boxes like really easily. But yeah, the plot. So there's a bunch of killings happening in Seattle, right, which is nearby. We find out that it's this vampire who's making a bunch of vampires to build an army, and I don't know if we talked about it much in the previous movies, but at least in this movie they make it clear that newborn vampires are much more vicious and have a bloodlust than all the rest of it. So having a bunch of newborns is quite dangerous, and they're, you know, can be controlled by a more powerful vampire. It's actually Victoria who's behind it all, really, but she's kind of like enlisted this other dude so that she's kind of like off the map, and even the telepath vampire can't like sense that it's her at first. But it basically leads to, for some reason, everything in this world revolves around Bella, because Victoria really wants Bella, and since Jacob's also in love with Bella, he's like, well, the Wills will help. So the Wills and the vampires are going to form a unholy alliance, and we're going to work together and team together to take on these bad vampires.
So I guess it's because she like again, I could barely tell you anything from the first couple movies, but was it the first or second one? Well, I guess probably the first one. Bella kills Victoria's husband or partner or whatever. Well,
I think it was Edward that actually did the killing. I could be wrong though.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying that because Edward said that in this movie at one point.
Oh, okay. So, but basically, she wants revenge.
Yeah,
for that.
yeah. She wants revenge. Obviously, the Illuminati was introduced at the end of the last movie, and they are terrible. Like, Dakota Fanning, I think it is. Maybe Ellie Fanning. Is it Dakota? Is it Ellie? I don't know. One of the Fannings. She is like the leader, and she's got the hood on. And every time it cut to all four of this like Illuminati in their hoods, all I could hear was like from Hot Fuzz, "The greater good, the greater good." But they're kind of watching and know that Victoria's doing all this shit and just don't care, because like, I have to kill the Cullens. We're all right with that. Like, they're fine. But they don't show up really to interact with the main characters till the end. And they insist on killing this newborn vampire who actually kind of switched sides because she was kind of innocent, and the Cullens kind of like accepted her and said, okay, we'll take you in. And then Dakota's like, no, kill her. Yeah. And sure enough.
And if you look at that newborn vampire, apologies, I don't remember the actress's name, but like she is kind of like horror royalty. Like she's been in so many horror movies. Has
she?
I mean, she was in, the American Ring. She was in Silent Hill. I think if you look at that, there's like actually like a couple more too. Like, but I mean, I think those are like kind of the big ones that you remember her for.
Was she the little? Well, was there a little girl in the ring? I don't think there was. Was it?
Yeah. Yeah, Samara.
She was the actual. Okay, she was the
actual. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The girl in the well.
Fair enough, I guess. There's like a training montage at one point where the vampires are just sort of tackling each other, and the wolves are just watching. I'm like, the wolves not going to train? Are they not going to learn anything? Or
yeah, they got it.
Yeah. Jacob gets injured in the last big fight. Half of his body gets crushed. Luckily, a bit of morphine, some bone resetting, and he's good to go, pretty much.
What do you think about the line where he wants to see Bella, and is that when she's asking him like, "Are you really gonna marry him?" or something? And she's like, "Let's wait till after you're healed." And he says, "I want to get all my re-breaking done at once."
Yeah,
it don't sound like that.
Yes, may as well break my heart again whilst all my bones are getting broken. Yeah. By all means, on you go.
Oh yeah, and then also one thing we didn't mention about too is the werewolves also get their own flashback as well.
Oh yes, because there's the what did they keep calling them, the cold ones, and I'm like, it sounds like they're talking about beer.
Cold skins.
Oh, was it skins? I thought it was ones.
Maybe it's ones. I thought it was cold skins, but it could be wrong.
No, I mean, I just misheard them. I mean,
yeah.
But
yeah, it is just wild. Like say vampires.
Yeah, just say vampires. I agree. Yeah, but basically Jacob's, again, he's trying to manipulate Bella, so he brings her to like a meeting of the werewolf council who sit around a campfire and tell the story of their past. She shouldn't really be here, but obviously it's all just a ploy by Jacob to make her hate vampires. Like, no, you can't be you can't be like a cold undead freak. You should, be with me because you could be a wolf. Have they established that they can turn people into wolves in this by biting? I don't know if they have, actually.
I don't remember, but there was something about like women usually can't turn into werewolves, except sometimes.
Because there's a woman werewolf in this, yeah, but just one.
Yeah. But there's again, my mom was trying to explain it to me, but I forget. But I think there's something about it. Maybe if it wasn't much in the movie, maybe it's more in the books. But there's something, I believe, that says like normally women can't become werewolves, or they don't become werewolves, but I guess maybe in like certain extreme times or something they can. I don't know. It just, there's so much like dumb bullshit like mythology stuff that like they like to throw in this movie, which usually I kind of like that, but like in this, like everything is kind of very groany. It's like, oh, like you're adding all this stuff that's like not cool. Like, oh yeah, like we can go out in the light, but like, we sparkle and stuff. Like, it's like the dumbest stuff ever.
I think that part of the problem with this as well is that everything about it just feels like it was written as someone's fantasy.
Oh sure, yeah.
And so I was having that problem a lot where the characters never learn a lesson because the writer has no interest in the character like having an arc. They want the characters to get what they want because it's all about what they want from the start.
Which is why, I mean, honestly, like I think this is perfectly fine for its intended audience, which is like, like 12, 13-year-old kids. Like
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that, because I think some of the messaging and what they may learn from it is unhealthy.
Yeah, well, I mean, sure, but I don't know if you're supposed to. I mean, if it's just for fun or whatever, but if you do take it seriously, I guess it can be problematic. But I guess the point I was trying to make though is like that's why it seems so weird that it became such like a cultural phenomenon, and like there's a big thing with like like these groups of like mothers and stuff that were like really into it, which is strange.
And then they get really into 50 Shades because it was like, oh, there's a market for a more adult version of this, so let's turn it into that.
Yeah, whenever you saw like you know, an older person reading Twilight, then you just cue that the meme from Community of the dean saying like, "Oh, this doesn't awaken something in me."
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those weird things where like maybe like the fandom of Twilight shouldn't have gotten as much hate from everyone as it did. But like you know, I was definitely guilty of some of it where like I remember like just like seeing like, you know, I'd be in like an entertainment store and like someone would walk past and I just sort of like glance at what they have in their hand and they'd have like a Twilight DVD and a book in their hand and I'd just be like, you pathetic individual, like how you sad pathetic soul. Like I think what gets to me about this is that it's not just that it is a horrendously made movie in a lot of ways where it looks bad. It looks just like puke at a lot of the time. There's a lot of like, I think it's going for like early late morning or whatever where it's like, you know, just after dawn, but it just looks like dull, like day for night style crap. But I think the bigger thing though is that you have the crappy teen romance element, which is just really one note and never really says anything interesting about anything that's doing. But then the thing that we've been also mentioning here is that it takes the vampires, the werewolves, and all the stuff that could make it interesting and spice it up, and makes it all as lame as it possibly could be.
Oh yeah,
like all of it. Like there's nothing cool about anything that happens in these movies, and this movie, you know, like we're supposed to care that like this evil vampire dude's working for Victoria and killing random people, and then is betrayed at the end because Victoria doesn't really care about him. He's just a ploy. It's just a ploy to get to Edward and Bella.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff where like if you take it out of context, like it sounds like it could be cool. Like if you're like, oh yeah, no, like there's this, you know, plot where there's like a vampire serial killer that's, you know, stalking people in the city, and like, you know, the cops don't really know what to do, and they're kind of like building up this like vampire army. It's like, okay, that sounds kind of cool, but then it's like, but yeah, like the army is like to go after this one girl because, you know, this other girl is upset because she like was mean to her boyfriend, and then that's when you just start losing everything. It's like, that's not as interesting anymore.
Yeah, I mean, if you just told me there's a movie about vampires and werewolves making an uneasy alliance because there's a bigger threat coming, like, you know what, that sounds like it might be all right.
Sure, yeah.
And admittedly, I mean,
that's Underworld.
I mean, yeah, I've seen the first Underworld a long time ago, and I hated it because it was terrible with a really bad director. But I don't conceptually hate the idea.
Sure, yeah. There's many a Tales from the Crypt episode that that did it justice.
Yes. Many? I mean, like 2 or 3.
I mean, it's not as many as in my head, but I always feel like there was like a lot of episodes where like the twist would be like, you know, someone is being attacked by a vampire, but then like the twist ending is like, but guess what? I'm a werewolf. Like, I'm pretty sure they did it at least like 2 or 3 times.
I definitely remember it happening once or twice, but it's been a while, since we did all the Twilight, some Tales from the Crypt episodes. Sorry, maybe there's a Twilight Zone that ended as well. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Would not be surprised.
So there's a big showdown on the mountain with Victoria where Edward kills her. It's actually a really funny scene where he basically breaks her head off, and I get like we said, it's that crystal effect. So there's the bottom of her head and the top of her neck are all crystal inside.
You know what? These movies are really strange because they are so, like, they feel so safe in one sense where it's like, you know, like, yeah, we have these horror elements, but we're not really doing anything very horrific or gory or whatever. But every now and again, there'll be battle scenes that it's like, there's not a lot of blood, but they are like incredibly violent. Like, people are getting their like limbs and heads ripped off and stuff. Like, it's, I mean, if you replace the, you know, sparkles with blood, which, I mean, maybe that's kind of what, you know, those are supposed to be in place of. Like, this would actually be like a pretty gory like battle.
What's so funny to me is that like so much of like the plot feels like an afterthought to the romance in these movies, and it has done in all three of them at this up to this point. But like Bella's like so excited about being a vampire, and she even says to Edward at one point that it's not just about being in love with him. It's like she actually like she wants to be a part of this world. And I'm like, what part of the shitty Illuminati are them dealing with these random evil vampires or these weird training sessions in the woods? What part of all of this is appealing to you exactly?
Oh yeah, no, it all sounds horrible. Like you're stuck in high school forever. You crave blood. You're super cold. You have like really dumb looking eyes. Like anytime they show someone's eyes, they just look like they're like covered in piss or something.
Yeah, none of it makes any sense to me. Like her desire to do this, and she's constantly given reasons why she shouldn't. Like, you know, she goes to see her mother at the start of the movie because Edward bought her a plane ticket apparently.
Oh yeah.
Her mother's like, oh, I can't wait till you have kids someday, so you know we can like continue your traditions with them. And it's like, oh shucks, guess that's not. Well, I happen to know there is maybe a baby at some point, but like I don't know what the rules are here for vampire kids, but we'll find out, I suppose.
Good question. Yeah.
And she's thinking, oh, we have to like tell my dad stuff. We have to come up with reasons why I can't go to Christmas things or why I can't go to this, that, or that. But the movie does end with her saying, we have to tell my dad. We have to tell Charlie. And I'm like, what about the fact that you're engaged or the fact that you're going to become a vampire? Because I feel like you may have a problem with both of them, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the vampire thing's really going to upset.
Yeah.
So it ends as it started with them in like a field of flowers romantically talking to each other and talking about the wedding. She's going to let Alice plan everything because that's what's important, is this shit.
This was giving me like big Attack of the Clones vibes.
Oh yeah, I could see it.
That's never something you want in a movie.
Honestly, their chemistry's not that far away from young Anakin and Padme.
That's fair, yeah. It's
in the ballpark. Like, let's be honest, they do not have a spark at all.
No.
And it's so funny that we're a month away from this guy being Batman, and everyone's kind of cool with it, but it's just kind of funny how much things have changed.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'll give most like actors the benefit of a doubt, especially him. He's done plenty of like great stuff since then, and I don't know. I feel like everyone's kind of phoning it in these movies.
Oh, that's definitely fair. I mean, they've clearly read the script. They know it's shit.
Yeah, and like I was pretty surprised that this one was directed by David Slade, who I think is like a pretty good director. Like he did Hard Candy, 30 Days of Night. Not like I don't really know much of him about his like personality or whatever as a director, but I mean, if he does, I assume he's just trying to get the bag.
He directed the System of a Down music video for Aerials. That's interesting. Bit of trivia.
Of course, yeah.
He's done a Breaking Bad episode, done a bunch of Hannibal. Yeah.
I mean, I think he's like a pretty good director, though. Like, he did one of the segments in Nightmare Cinema, which I like. So I don't know, like he's
done two Black Mirror episodes.
Okay. So I mean, I'm assuming this was just like a paycheck. I mean, maybe I shouldn't speak for him. Maybe he loves the material, but
oh yeah, I'll bet.
But I mean, of the stuff I've seen from him, though, usually I would expect a higher caliber.
I actually haven't seen 30 Days a Night or had Hard Candy, so I have only has TV episodes really to go on here.
Well, he did that segment in Nightmare Cinema that was like the black and white one, I believe. That I think we both liked.
Okay,
yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, he's got Dark Harvest in the works. That's what he's doing. It's coming out this year.
This year, I believe.
Yeah. Starring Jeremy Davis, Elizabeth Reeser, who's in this movie, who's in Twilight Eclipse.
Yeah.
She's Edward's quote unquote mum in the family. But she was in Haunted at Hill House and stuff. Like she's been in stuff recently.
Oh, cool. One part that I did think was funny was in the flashback, the werewolf flashback. They have they're showing like the werewolf and the vampire fighting, and then like and then this woman in the village did this like noble sacrifice where she like kills herself with a rock, and then the bloodlust like distracts a vampire because they just get so crazy for blood that they're able to defeat them. Which, first of all, I just thought was like super funny because it was like, she stabs herself in the chest. It's like, can you just kind of cut your arm? Like,
which Bella does later on in the movie.
Yeah, which is like it's so obvious, like foreshadowing. It's like, oh well, I know what's gonna happen in this final battle here. Yeah, so that's what like Bella ends up doing. And I thought it was kind of funny, but then it's also like kind of like, oh, like these vampires are supposed to be like so like badass and like powerful, but it's like just smelling blood, they like just can't control themselves. Like, I don't know, it's stupid.
Yeah. I mean, we don't do this for every movie these days, but I do think it may be worth looking at some of the 10 out of 10 reviews on IMDb for this bad boy.
Oh, sure.
Yes, no one cares about the bad reviews. Like, the bad reviews are the ones that are lately making sense. Here's a title for you. It's an outstanding movie, the best action movie ever made. Twilight Saga Eclipse, a better action movie than Die Hard. That's what he's saying. Interesting
thoughts.
Yeah. Yes.
There's like,
underrated.
Is there even any action other than the last battle? Like that's pretty much it.
The training sequence, I guess. Yeah. Don't read bad reviews until you watch and decide for yourself. There's a lot of good story.
Then read the bad reviews.
Yeah. Do you know what gets me about this is like people who always say, oh, you should see things for yourself or whatever. I'm like I get the idea, the logic behind that statement, but you can't feasibly watch every single thing that comes out, and some things are shit, right? Just because you're maybe against the grain. Like, say something that would convince me. Say something like, this is why the reviews are wrong, because it has this element to it or something. Like, say something. Just saying, oh, you should decide for yourself. I can't watch everything that looks like shit. just to double check that it is in fact shit, right? That's not how the world works.
Also, I guarantee you, like, the people that are doing like that, like most people that look at the reviews don't actually read the review. Like, they'll look at the score and then that'll be it. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with like reading review, but you gotta like, be smart about it. Like, you should like look for and follow people that have like similar tastes as you, so that you kind of have a rapport and like, oh, if they like this, maybe I'll like it or whatever. And then actually like look at what they're saying. Like, don't just look at the score and be like, oh, they gave it a thumbs down or like 2 stars, no thanks. Like, you actually have to like read the review and understand what, like, where they're coming from and the point that they're making.
Well, that's the thing, Tim. See if you like something and then someone else has a negative review or opinion on it, they're just haters. That's what they do. It's like, well, I don't have to accept that you've got a different opinion. I can just call you a hater, which is like almost like a slur at this point on the internet. Let's have a look at this. The best so far. This one's titled. I'm going to read this. This is from 1st of July 2010. The first sentence caught my eye. For the life of me, I'll never understand how people cannot like a film like Twilight. Right?
I'll explain it for you real quick because people have different opinions.
Yes. I'll admit, the first one failed to impress me, and if you've read my reviews, we haven't, you would know that it wasn't very hard to impress me with films. I can tell you're praising this one. Eclipse takes the saga to a whole new level of whip-ass. There is far more action and intensity in each performance. Action and intensity in each performance. That's a weird thing to say, but okay.
Oh yeah, the performances had so much action in them.
Yeah, and some quality camera work as well.
That's a weird thing to comment on, but okay.
The cinematography.
The camera was just mostly like stationary.
Well, it was so good that apparently the next sentence is talking about the same thing, because then it says the cinematography is well done as the light varies throughout the film nicely. The light varies throughout the film nicely. Oh, I love this review.
This sounds like this person is taking like a film 101 class, and they have to write a review with like a word count, so they're just like, all right, how do I get to 500 words? The music complements the score quite well, I did think. Like, they're just saying stuff to like get as many words in as possible.
When there's romance, it's bright and colorful. When there's horror, it's dark and creepy.
think it all just looked gray most of the time.
I mean, even if that was correct, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, that's technically the right thing to do, but like, are we going to applaud that they were able to turn on the sound mixer and be like, oh, you recorded audio, congratulations. The directing is also better in this film than the other two. It's worth a look and comes recommended. Well, Hollywood rules. I don't think I agree with your opinion.
Their name is Hollywood Rules.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
So we're back on titles here, right? Because I'm not going to read many of the full things, obviously.
Right.
Some of these people, harp on a bit. That one looked like it was going to be funny, and I would say it delivered. If you hate it, it's probably because you haven't seen it or made up your mind beforehand.
Well, I can guarantee we saw it.
yes, trust me. And me especially, there's a visual record of me reacting to the whole thing, so... Like,
yeah, I mean, I have an Apple iTunes receipt for $3.99 that I can prove in a court of law.
Oh dear.
Which did piss me off that I had to pay for this. Like, because I think for a while most of them were streaming, and I think technically this was on Peacock Premium, but it's like, well, it'd be more expensive for me to sign up for a month to watch it than rent it. Yes,
it was on the cock, but
what am I gonna do? Get a month of Peacock and then watch like Halloween Kills again and again?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of just generic, absolutely love this. It's the best of the three. Hits all the buttons for me. Yes, it was amazing. Stop judging it. I mean, you can tell some of these are like, oh, people are being haters and complaining about Twilight. I love Twilight.
For the record, like, I don't really care if anyone likes it. Like, these are just opinions, you know?
Yeah.
And I think like, that's what you're saying. Like, yeah, like if you don't like something, like you're seen as a hater. Like, I mean, I think it's just like, it's pretty easy. Like, it's totally fine not to like a thing. Just like, don't be a jerk about it. Like if someone's like, hey, I like this thing, don't be like, well, here's why you're an idiot. And then like, start, making fun of them and stuff. But it's like, yeah, if you don't like a movie and you want to just tweet like, oof, just watch this movie, it sucked. Like, people shouldn't be like, maybe you suck because this was brilliant. Like, it irks me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll wrap this up, but I just want to point out there's one here that's titled both an 8 out of 10 and a 3 out of 10, and I'm like, well, how's that a 10 out of 10 in IMDb then? Like, what? You're in the 10 out of 10 pool.
Yeah.
How did 8 and 3 average out to 10 out of 10? It doesn't make any sense. Well, actually, the first line explains. First off, the only reason I gave it a 10 is to counterbalance the negative votes this movie received, which I'll get into later. Oh god, there's a paragraph on that. Let me I know I don't represent a typical audience member. Most won't even give the films a chance. My advice to anyone seeing this movie, if you're a guy and don't like the Twilight books, because I'm sure all the people who don't want to see Twilight have read the books, or past movies, don't see it. You're not going to like it. Even if it was really good, you'd probably just hate it anyway, because let's face it, most people hate Twilight just for the sake of hating Twilight. Look.
Review by S. Meyer? What?
that attitude irks me so much. I'm like, I think while we can talk about the target audience for this and we can talk about all these things, I think you can tell the fundamental story that this movie is trying to tell, but still be good. Right, you can tell us coming of age story about falling in love with a vampire, and it can be compelling. It can, and this sounds like I'm building up to a Buffy joke. I'm not, right? I'm really not. I'm saying that this series is ripped apart for lots of reasons. It's got cliched writing. It's got a lack of character arcs. Like what Bella decides she wants, like 20 minutes into the first movie, is what she still wants now, pretty much at the end of the third movie, and it's just going to keep going until she gets it. And there's just throwaway action plot lines in each movie about some villain who wants her for some reason because everything revolves around her. Right? Like, you've got that, you've got how they're shot, you've got bad dialogue, you've got cheesy nonsense, and honestly you've got problematic, like, toxic characters who, like, the way it treats romance is like troublesome at best. Let's just say that. Right? So it frustrates me because I can have some fun. We can make fun of like hardcore. I mean, let's face it, I went to the 10 out of 10 reviews because I assumed these people would mostly be nut jobs. Right? Because to me, a sensible Twilight fan right? Because I do think they probably exist. Is someone who sees it as a guilty pleasure and might give it like a 6 or a 7 at a push to say, hey, I kind of like this, I get something out of it, but obviously it's got all these like objective fundamental problems that they don't just disappear because I am enamored with the shitty romance and I think Edward's dreamy or whatever the reason might be.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like my wife, like, so like I said, like I think she's read like all the books and saw the movies when they're coming out, and like I mean, I don't remember when they came out, like, she was definitely younger then, but would have still been like probably a little older than the intended audience. But as we're rewatching them now, she's laughing along and she's not like, she's not getting enamored with it and being like, oh, isn't this just the most romantic thing? Like, she's like, okay, yeah, that didn't age well, or oh yeah, that's pretty cringy. Like,
I'm curious, Tim, is there an age difference between you and the missus?
Oh, just 2 years.
Just 2 years. Yeah, nothing big, just like yeah. Is she younger or older?
Younger. So
okay. I'm just timing our age with the movies.
Yeah, because I mean, it's kind of hard because I'm really bad with time. So like, these feel like they're like 2 years old, but also 20 years old.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, I'll put it this way, Tim. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man's 20 years old this year, so let that sink in. I know.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, do you know what I think it is? I think it's because the early 2000s to our generation feels like the start of when we started remembering things. We weren't adults yet, we were still preteens and early teens or whatever. But
sure.
But I think that's when we kind of like see the millennium as this kind of anchor point where that's where the modern time period starts, because that's when we started being old enough to remember things. And it's like, wait, it's been 22 years since that. Oh shit. Oh shit. Yeah. I mean, what is there left to say except rate the damn thing? I suspect there might be more nonsense to talk about and Breaking Dawn if we ever have to do it. That is. Oh,
so we've met all the goals at
currently. Yes. Okay. And I hated this, and I'm not going to put a new goal up for the next one for a while, but eventually I'm going to forget the pain a little bit and give in and let people force us to do it.
Yeah, because you're going to do one of those sneaky things where it's going to be like late at night and like, no one's going to be paying attention, and you're like, I need some eyes on me, and then you're just gonna kind of slip this little thing here, and people are gonna start going like, oh, ding 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 ding. Like, when you do something that's gonna torture them, all right.
They do get satisfaction out of it. Yeah.
Oh, they're all sick freaks. That's. I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. I love our listeners, but y'all some freaks.
All right, Timmy. What are you rating Twilight Saga Eclipse?
It is a little tough because, like, I mean, like, part of me wants to like grade it on a curve. Like, I don't really remember what I gave the first two, but I don't know. I don't want to keep giving like the same score, because I do. A lot of time has passed, but I do feel like I like this one more than the other ones. Which, for a few reasons, like it's still a bad movie. It's way too long. Oh my god, like I could definitely feel the time in this, and then like we said, just the main characters are just kind of boring, don't really have a lot of chemistry, and the romance is just not
on the runtime. I just want to point out that there was an extended cut that's 5 minutes longer. That is not the one I watched.
Ooh. I hope I didn't accidentally watch that one.
Yeah, well, the regular one was 2 hours and 3 minutes, I think, was the.
Yeah, that's why. So to be fair, I would want to give it like a slightly higher score than the other two, because there were definitely parts where I was laughing at the over melodramatic nature of it, and it's very few and far between, but there are a few glimpses of stuff that I like the vampires' backstories. Again, it's like not great, but in context of the movie with all this other stuff that like I'm not really digging. Like that stuff was like a little bit like, okay, I can see where we're getting some horror-y kind of vibes from this. And I did kind of like the final battle. It's pretty stupid, and it's just like, you know, big CGI blobs, you know, fighting.
The wolves. I mean, they're not too bad. They're not terrible when they're standing still necessarily, but as soon as they start moving, they'll look like just a blob. And
I also just hate this depiction of werewolves, where it's just like, they look just like regular wolves. Just
they're
bigger.
not werewolves. They're men who turned into wolves, but they're not like they're not really werewolves.
Yeah, we're not werewolves. We're men who turn into wolves. But so like the battle doesn't look good, but I actually did get like some fun out of the battle, like mostly because like when they start killing all the vampires and like all those sparkles or whatever start snapping off, like that was enjoyable to me just because it was an interesting visual that I hadn't really seen before. And then like,
do you know what, to prove that I just had this thought, maybe I've made this joke before, but I feel like if you had Tobias Funke and his little denim shorts to the werewolf clan, the pack, I feel like that would improve things immensely. Just
also, that's like another thing like we were kind of wondering about is like, where do they keep getting these pants? Because like they're all like fighting this battle, and then like once they're done, like all the kids come running out and like they're in pants except for like Jacob's naked, I guess. But I was like, wait, like did they just like have like pants stashed somewhere that because they knew they were gonna need some?
Do they have just like extra pairs of shorts just hanging about in trees around the forest?
I guess
just maybe. So they can quickly grab a pair whenever they transform back into a human.
Yeah. I found a pair of underwear in my backyard before. Maybe there's a werewolf.
maybe. All right, go on. Give us a number, Timmy. Give us a number.
3, I guess.
Yeah, I actually double checked to see what I gave the last two on Letterboxd, and I don't know if it's identical to what I gave them on the show because I can't do the 0.5s, right?
Sure.
And anyone who uses Letterboxd is saying, but you can do half stars. Well, yes, you can do half stars, but I rate out of 10, so to me, half a point is, you know. So yeah, 5 out of 10 becomes 2.5 stars out of 5, but 5.5 I have to choose to round up or down. Usually I'll round down, but there's the odd exception where maybe I'll lean the other way. The reason why I'm saying this,
system.
Yeah, the reason why I'm saying this is that I've got it at 2 out of 10 on for the first two, and I don't know if I maybe gave one a 2.5 and rounded down. I don't know because I feel like this was the worst of the three in that I didn't find it as funny consistently. So I'm going to go with the flat 2, which might be slightly lower than the previous two. It might be the exact same. I actually don't remember. But that's what I'm going with, 2 out of 10. I don't think we're going to go to war because you give it a 3. I think we can live peacefully. If you've seen the movie, unfortunately for you, let us know in the comments what you think of it. Liking does help, subscribing, all that stuff helps out a lot. We should mention the bonuses at Patreon. I'll tell you more about Patreon itself in a minute, but we did Werewolves Within as a bonus episode for January, which you can get for just $1 a month over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, as well as even more streams, which is kind of more of a casual, just maybe if there's like a news item we'll talk about it, but by and large we'll get together and talk about just random horror movies we've both watched that are separate, and sometimes maybe one of us will have seen the other one that the other one's talking about, and sometimes we won't have, but it's kind of a catch-up type of thing. So there should have been one of those recently as well. So go and have a look. But yes, thank you to our Patreon producers for the month of Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Borden, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Al Tribesman. And of course, you can get us on the Twitters at Screams Midnight. And yeah, that about does it. Tim, I'm going to make pose for the thumbnail. What are you writing down? You're over there like taking notes.
All right, no, I was doing something for the thumbnail. We'll see if it works. But okay.
Oh, okay. I'm excited. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, pause.
Does this show up? How do I?
Right, hold it back. I can't have it like touching the edges. Well, except from the bottom. So pull it back.
Right. This way?
Yeah, pull it back and then down a bit.
Okay.
No, pull it back. Right, but then vertically down a bit.
Vertically down a bit. Okay.
There you go. Yeah, and then just sort of nudge your whole body over to the side that's not on.
Okay. Wait. So
Yes. Right, and bring your hand over a bit as well. There we go. There we go. Right, that's it. That's the ticket. Very good. Very good. Wonderful. I love that the
just
audio
came to me.
Yeah, I love that the
goddamn
audio
funny.
version is just going to be like what was that 30 seconds of nudge a bit, left a bit, down a bit.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
old school NES cheat code.
Yes. But yes, hopefully you've had fun. This is your Valentine's special of Screams After Midnight. So
Yeah, hopefully a lot of couples are listening to it together.
yes, I hope so. Honestly, I've only ever heard of this once or twice for our shows, but once or twice someone has said that they've listened with their partner, and I'm like, oh, that's so weird to me that two people because podcasts to me are such a solo thing. I've never listened to a podcast with someone else, so
Yeah.
it's just weird. Like, oh my god, it's like we're a TV show, like a couple getting together and
Yeah, I guess the only time I've ever done it would be like if I'm driving somewhere, like maybe I'll listen to something in the car with my wife, but like like we never just like sit down on the couch and curl up with an earbud in one ear. Or
sure,
like that.
like there's a difference between it's something you're listening to and then she's just there for a bit of it or something.
Yeah.
But it's another thing when it's like, oh no, both people in the couple are a fan of a YouTube show, so they sit down together and watch it. It's like, oh, that's kind of nice.
Or thruple. It could have
Or
a,
thruple. I mean, given the way the tension was going towards the end of this, it feels like we may have a thruple in the next Twilight.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about like you and me. I'm like,
No,
what?
no.
We're gonna get Matt in here. What's going on?
So thank you very much for joining us, everyone. This has been Screams After Midnight. Hopefully you had a good time, and we will see you in the future for more. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next time. Keep watching scary movies. We're out.